Hi everyone, I'm Manu. This is Chapters with Manu, and today we're going to be doing my mid-year tag. So, how this is going to work is I'm going to tell you a little bit about the books I read this year, the best and the worst, because as of this moment, I have already read over 130, almost, I think over 140 actually, books. So, I'm not going to be sitting here and telling you about all of them. So, I just separated my favorite and my least favorite. I've also separated some of my favorite new authors that I've discovered this year, as well as some books that I really hope to read before 2026 comes to an end. I'm going to be starting with the best books of the year so far, and I want to start with the Carnage trilogy by Green Weaver, especially Harvest Season, which came out a few weeks ago, because this book it changed my life. I had already read the Runo's Love trilogy by her, and even though I liked it, I didn't exactly love it. So I went into Carnage not knowing what to expect. And then I found out that it was not going to be a trilogy of interconnected standalones. It's actually a trilogy that is focused on the same characters throughout the trilogy, and I love this because they are such an interesting such an interesting couple and such interesting characters, and everything I read about them leaves me wanting more. And Harvest was such a game changer for me. I read it in one sitting. I actually read it when I was going on my trip a few weeks ago, and I was crying inside an airplane. So yeah, I loved it. Moving on to another trilogy, we have The Bourbon Boys by Victoria Wilder. And this is a story that follows three brothers, the Bourbon brothers. And I loved this trilogy. This trilogy saved me from a slump. I read the three books over the weekend. And even though my absolute favorite is the third one, I really love all of them. They have their own strengths and particularities. I just really love an enemies to lovers and a fake dating, and I don't know what to tell you. The third one is my absolute favorite, but they all are really, really good, and they made me very interested to read more of Victoria Wilder's work. I have an author that had been on my radar for a while, and that's Julie Soto. And I read her all of her books basically this year, but her contemporary romances are something else. They are Forget Me Not and Not Another Love Song. And even though they are standalones, they do have some hints on each other. And I read on the opposite order. So I was like, oh, okay, this is why they say to read the other way. But they are absolutely delicious. And Julie Soto does such a good job of making these characters real. Like they're all fleshed out. They have flaws, they have strengths, they have a love for hobbies, or they have a passion for their careers. And they're so passionate about it that you get passionate about it. I mean, I didn't think that I was going to get so into wedding planning and flowers, but here I was obsessed with wedding planning and flowers because of one of these books. So really, it was so rich, the experience of reading to these stories, because it was not just a romance about the romance. It was about the people that were falling in love and why they had to fall in love with each other and why it worked, And they were delicious. Most of these books I've binged. And when I mean binge, that I mean like I sat down and I read the whole thing pretty much from beginning to end. But Forget Me Not and Not Another Love Song were books that I could not put down. Like I was in class reading, I was brushing my teeth, and I was reading on my Kindle. So really, they were absolutely amazing. We also have In Her Own League by Liz Stamford. If you haven't heard of Liz Stamford, she's the writer of Windy City, the series. And In Her Own League is technically part of that, but it's more of a spin off. And it tells the story of the Rhodes Brothers' coach, Emmett. And it's so good. I feel like I'm being really repetitive, but this is a book with a romance involving older adults, which is something that I don't usually read. Not because I don't like it, but because I feel like I don't really come across a lot of them. And here they're adults, like she's younger than he is, but it's such a good book, and the way it's developed and how they talk about feminism and how women have to earn their spaces sometimes, and how he's so supportive of her even though in the beginning they don't like each other, and Liz Sonford is just one of my favorite writers for contemporary romance, and I knew this book was not going to disappoint, but I didn't know that I was going to love it as much as I did. And I did love it, and I was not ready to say goodbye to these people. Like, it was such a good series. I don't know. I have no words. That's the truth. Another romance that I really love to read, and this one I technically did not read with my eyeballs, I was listening to, and it's The Love Haters by Catherine Center. This is a book that really spoke to me because the female main character is so insecure and she has a lot of body issues. So this is a book that is not for everybody, especially if you're triggered with body image talk. And I feel like it should have a trigger warning for this because it's very heavy. That being said, I saw myself in that female main character so much, and it came into my life in a moment where I needed a reminder that, it's okay to be different. It's okay to not be super skinny, to not be, it just spoke to me. And I feel like if I had read it in a different time, I would not have enjoyed it as much. But it was really good. It was a little intense, and I feel like all of Catherine Center's books are a little intense, and you either love or hate her protagonist. But in this case, I really loved her. I also have another romance that I want to mention, which is King of Gluttony by Anna Huang. I have been an Anna fan for a while. I read all of the Twisted books. Now I've read all of the Kings of Sins, and I also am following Gods of the Games. And I'm meeting her in September. I'm so excited about this. But King of Gluttony came out when I was almost slumping again because of readathon season. And I said, I'm going to read this book because I feel like Anna has the power to get me out of my slump. And she did. Like, I sat down and I said, I'm starting this book. And I thought, I'm reading very slowly because I'm almost slumping. It's going to take me a while to finish. And I read it in like 6 hours. I know this book is getting a lot of mixed reviews, and I'm not going to get into the thick of it because I did love it. But I always feel like Anna is someone that you either love or you hate. There's no in between. Like, people are not lukewarm about her books. And King of Gluttony was exactly what I needed when I needed it. And her male character in this book was so good, especially after I was so let down in King of Envy. Vuk was not my favorite main character by like a mile. And I really love this one, especially because he was French, and I'm just a girl who loves French people and French hot men. And if they speak French to me, I'm a goner. Moving on a little bit from traditional romance, we have a dark romance that I want to mention, which is Game On by Navessa Allen. This concludes the Into Darkness trilogy. When I read Lights Out, it was already very popular, so I went in with very high expectations, and I didn't love it. I didn't hate it, but I didn't love it. And Caught Up is still my favorite book of the trilogy, but Game On was so layered, so complex, and so surprising that I had to bring it to this list because I already went in not knowing what to expect because I hated Tyler in the books where we saw him, and I was like, this guy's douche. I'm not gonna like a book by him. But it caught me by surprise, and the ship in this book is so different from her other ships, and I love it about it. And she caught me by surprise, and I'm very excited to see what else she writes because I saw how much versatility she has, and this is something that I really love in an author. And then moving on to our world of fantasy and romantasy and dystopia, I have to mention Silver Lid and Broken Dove. I have read Broken Dove as of today when I'm recording this. It's July 10th, and I finished it this week. And I am obsessed with these books. I cannot wait for book 3. Like, I need it to come out right now.
But in Francis, if you see this, please send me an arc.
Because I am suffering without the conclusion to this story. But Silver Lid was also a book that I binged. Broken Dove, not so much because I was going through a little bit of a slump. I still am. I'm reading in a slower pace than usual. But Broken Dove was so good, and I am very happy that I finally gave it a chance, and I'm very excited for book 3. I know a lot of people who loved Silver Lid didn't love Broken Dove, and I can see how it got different, but I still love them very much. I also have to mention Half City by Kate Golden. Half City is a book that was recommended to me by a lot of people, and we read it in the book club ran by Melanie Reads and Covers with Cassidy, and everybody was loving it. So I do think I went with my expectations a bit too high because everyone was loving it, and it took me a while to get into it. But when I did get into it, I was obsessed. I gave it 4.5 stars because it took me a while to start, but I do realize this is not the book's fault, it's my fault because of such high expectations. And I'm obsessed. I love it. I feel like it has good characters, it has an amazing world building, and it has that vibe from the 2000 TV shows where you left, you had a season finale in the middle of action and you were like, what do you mean I have to wait 6 months for another episode? And this is how I felt reading this book. When I reached the ending, I was like, what do you mean I have to wait months for another book? And luckily the next one is still coming out this year, and I'm counting down the days because I got rejected for the arc. But I am really excited to see where else we go with Half City, especially because it's such an easy read. I have seen it compared to Buffy, and I've seen it compared to Wings Club and everything, and I can see all those similarities, but I still feel like it's its own thing, and I love that. I love the how it gives you nostalgia while giving you something new. I am worried that we're gonna have a love triangle. Not the biggest love triangle fan in the world, but I trust Kate Golden. I trust what she's written, and I trust I'm gonna have a good time. And the worst that can happen is it ends like Divergent. I mean, it cannot be worse than Divergent, people, right? Like that ending. And the last book I want to mention is another book I read really recently, which was made by Ellie Hazelwood. Last week, my best friend Kurt and I, Kurt from Reading with Kurt, we had a plan of reading all of Ellie Hazelwood's backlist, and we did not finish in time. I don't remember where she got. I feel like she has more books to read than me, but I had Bride and Mate left, and I was scared because I knew that it involved some smut scenes that I had not been in touch with before. So I read Bride. Was not a huge fan of Misery. Yes, that's the main character's name if you haven't read it. I did not like her. She annoyed me a lot. And Kurt told me, believe in the process, read Mate because you're going to love Mate. And she was right. I did love Mate. It was different from what I was expecting. There's a lot of yearning, and I love a good yearning. I love a man yearning. And this book was absolutely delicious. It was also a 5 stars. Most of the books I've mentioned so far were 5 stars, but this one was just, it was supernatural, and it was yearning, and it was spicy in the proper amount. And I needed more, to be really honest. Like I would have read another 300 pages of the couple. I would have. I'm an easy girl to please, honestly. But sometimes I'm not that easy to please, which we're talking now about the worst books I've read this year. And I want to start this off by saying that I do not intend to hurt any authors or anybody when I mention these books, because they just didn't work for me, but for other people they might work. And I have very specific things that bother me in books, and very specific. I can be a picky eater, but I can be an even pickier reader sometimes. And these books are going to showcase a little bit of that. And I want to start with Game Changer by Rachel Reed. I watched Hidden Rivalry just like everybody. I waited for it to come out here in Brazil because I wanted to watch it legally. And when I watched, I knew I had to read the books because I wanted to know more about the character, especially Kip and Scott. However, I started it as an audiobook, and the narrators do not work. Like especially for Kip, I don't know if it was because of the narrators themselves, or if it was because I was reading after watching the show and the voices are completely different. But I wanted to throw myself off the window. Actually, to be more dramatic, I was driving. I kind of want to hit my car because it was so bad, people. It was so bad. And I DNF'd it at like 10% because there was a lot of smut. And I said, I want to give this another try because I feel like the problem was the narrator. And it wasn't. I mean, I think it's common knowledge by now that Game Changer started as a fan fiction for Captain America and Bucky Barnes. and it reads like a fanfiction. Like you can tell that it was written as a fanfiction because of the amount of sex scenes. I know the author has tried to hide the fact that this was a fanfiction first, but it's being, like it's something that is common knowledge, and I feel like it shows. That being said, I gave Heated Rivalry a chance and I loved it. I gave it 5 stars. I just DNF'd Game Changer, both as an audiobook and as a eyeball read. It was not for me and it was a huge disappointment. Another book that I DNF'd was The Paris Apartment by Lucy Foley. I have been trying to read more thriller, mysteries, horror books, and I know that Lucy Foley is a big name in these genres. And I read the guest list first. I also did it as an audiobook. And I really liked the story up to the last percentages and the last pages. I thought the ending was not satisfactory, but I said, maybe my problem was the story. And I can now tell you for sure that my problem is the author. The Paris Apartment, I couldn't get to 50%. And I kept trying and I kept trying and I kept trying because this is, when I listen to audiobooks, I usually do it driving. So, I have time to give a book a try because I give it a few days before I DNF. But this one, I realized that I did not want to listen to an audiobook. I wanted to listen to music and I wanted to listen to the radio over listening to the audiobook. And it put me in an audiobook slump because it took me a while to listen to another one because I just didn't care. I didn't like the characters. I didn't like the main character, and especially the main character, and I didn't want to listen to that. I didn't care. I actually didn't care about the mystery. I ended up Googling to find out what happened. And when I found out what happened, I was like, I'm really glad that I chose to DNF this one because I would have been very, very mad. Then we have 2 arcs that I read this year that did not work for me. The first one was When in Dublin by Tracy Avery. This one, it was my mistake because in Goodreads, it's labeled as romance, but it's actually women's fiction and it says so on NetGalley. And I'm someone who does not love literary fiction. I need to be in the proper headspace. It needs to be a book that is going to get my attention, which doesn't happen very often. And this book was just not for me. And I did not like the story. I didn't like the main character. She's someone who moves countries, and I've done that. And some of the feelings she had resonated with me, but most of the time I was just annoyed by her. I wanted her to stop talking. I wanted her to go back home, and then she wanted to go home, and then she didn't go home. And I was just so annoyed. In the ending, because I did finish this book because I'm a masochist, but I hated it. I gave it 2 stars. I think I gave it 3 stars because it was the author's debut, but I should have given it like 1.5, to be very honest with you. And the other one was Coach's Agent by Shayna Collins. And this one was a problem because I started reading and like 3 pages in, she was already having sex with someone. And we don't even know who the guy is. So I was like, wait, she's already having sex with her love interest. And it turns out that it wasn't the love interest. It was a boyfriend that took her forever to break up with. I did not finish this book. I read it up to like 60%, 70% because it was during readathon season and I wanted the pages and I wanted the book to count. So I had to get through 50% for that to happen. But I hated myself every page that I read. It was just very insta lusty. It wasn't even insta love. And I didn't like it. I had such bad luck with my arcs when I was starting to use NetGalley. Nowadays, I'm having a lot more luck, but it was a rough time. I had other arcs that I didn't like. These 2 were, since I'm talking about the worst, these 2 definitely take the crown. We also have The Coworker by Frida McFadden. I have read a few Frida books. I liked most of them. I really liked Housemaid and The Second Housemaid. Didn't love the third one, didn't love the novella, but I wanted to read, like I said, more thrillers. So I said, I liked The Housemaid. I'm going to try more of her stuff. And The Coworker was not it for me. I didn't like the way she portrayed the characters, especially the character who is suspected of being dead because she's missing. I feel like she does. This is a character who has mental health issues, and the way Frida wrote that did not work for me. It felt very. It just didn't feel real. It felt like she was doing something very exaggerated, and that does not work for me with mental health issues and representation. And she talked about turtles so much in this book that I don't know how to tell you this, but I wanted to grab all the turtles in the world and like just make them go to her house and be like, "You want to be obsessed with turtles? Here are the turtles." Like I could not hear the word turtle again. So I read up to like 80%, and I realized I hate myself for reading this, which I was actually also listening to the audiobook. And I've come to realize now talking to you that I take forever to DNF audiobooks. And I was like, I can't do this anymore. And then I grabbed the physical copy, not the physical one, but the digital copy. And I said, I need to know what happens. And then I started just skimming through the pages to find out what happened. And when I found out what happened, I was like, oh my God, I cannot believe this book got published because it was so bad. It just kept getting worse and worse and worse and worse. And it was just so bad. Why did I give it 3 stars? I just realized, like, I gave it 3 stars. It deserved less. I might be too kind with my ratings. Anyway, terrible. Do not recommend it. And it did make me take a break from Frida books because I hated it so much. And I was like, I fear that I'm going to hate all of them from now on. I had just finished Dear Abby before that, which was also not a favorite. I liked it very much, but I didn't love it. And this one just made me, nope, we need a new author. And I'm sorry, Frida, but I am still on a hiatus from you. We also have, and this makes me very sad, but the Stay Loving Amazon short story collection. I hated it. And I'm someone who really loves these short stories usually because they help me find new authors to read. But this one, I still haven't read all of them, by the way, because I just kept hating and hating and hating and hating. And I'm like, why? What happened? Because they're usually so good. Like the one that came out on Valentine's Day was good. Not all of them were good, but most of them were really good. And this one was like the opposite. It had like one that was okay, and the rest were just terrible. And I was like, oh my God, why am I doing this to myself? Which is why I haven't read all of them. But I think out of 6, I read 5, or out of 5, I read 4. I read almost all of them. And it makes me sad because one of them was actually queer representation, but it was still so bad. So, so, so bad. What happened, Amazon? Like, what? Please do better because I miss the good short stories. I miss them. I want to read them. And last but not least, this was the book club pick for my hometown book club, and it was Count My Lies by Sophie Stava. And this book is, as a comparison, we're going to say that The Housemaid is Chanel, this book is Walmart. I don't know how else to put it. Like, it was so, it had no logic, and everyone in this book sucked. The conclusion was very rushed. There were a lot of plot holes in it, and as we discussed it in the book club, we kept finding more and more plot holes. And I don't know, it says Count My Lies, but I did not realize that at one point the main character would be lying about so much that not even her would be able to keep track of that. And everybody was lying about everything all the time, and I was just done. I was very much done. I did read all of it because it was a book club book. But let me just say that when we met up to talk about it, we all shaded it, which is sad, especially because it's getting an adaptation with Shailene Woodley, I think. I don't remember her last name, but Tris from Divergent, as well as Lindsay Lohan. And I'm like, how are these two acting in this adaptation? Because it's not good. But yeah, now I'm curious to see what's going to happen in that adaptation. On another note, speaking of the adaptations, but not really, I do have to mention some of my favorite new authors from this year, which I've found a lot of them. Some thanks to NetGalley, some just thanks to joining the BookTube and Bookstagram community. And I'm just gonna list them because if I start talking about them, I'm gonna sound repetitive and I'm gonna be gushing. But they are Stephanie Alves. She writes a really good college hockey romance series, and her third book, which was a male romance, blew my mind, and I'm very excited for the last one, which is Enemies to Lovers. Then we have Joanna Thurlow, and she wrote Forever is the Sweetest Con. And not only was the book a blast to read, she's also the sweetest human being. When I wrote her a review for her arc, she actually added me and some other girls who wrote her reviews, and she gave us a Starbucks card to use. So she's really one of the sweetest human beings ever. I know I said I wasn't gonna gush, but I have to because I just have to. People being an author these days feels very hard, and they deserve all the love that they can get. And I have to mention Jodie McAllister. She wrote one of my favorite books of the year, An Academic Love Affair, and one of my favorite arcs of the year, which is A Studying Sparkling. It comes out this September. I've read both of them, but An Academic Love Affair just it held me by my throat because it was a fake dating enemies to lovers book in an academic setting, and they were both academics. And we have the narration by the male main character, and since they are academics, he writes footnotes in the chapters. So you are really immersed in their world, and I was kicking my feet. I was kicking my feet. So yeah. And last but not least, I have to mention McKenna Cleaver. I don't know how to say her name, but she has started a series about brothers. It's called the Kane Brothers, and I was lucky enough to receive an arc of her first book, Fake It With You. It came out last month in June, and it was so good, so good. And she's already writing. I think she's done writing actually, but the second one in the series, and it's coming out this October. And I am hoping to get another arc because I am obsessed. I need to read about all of those boys, all of their love interests. We already know who the love interest for the second brother is because it's very heavily hinted at in the first book. And I'm just like, yep, I'm set. I'm ready. Give me the hate. Give me the enemies to lovers. It's one of my favorite tropes. Her debut novel was Fake Dating, which is also one of my favorite tropes. So it was just like she said, "Here, Manu, here are your favorite tropes for you." And yeah, I loved all of these authors. They're all really sweet. Most of them I've somehow gotten in touch with in social media, and they've been really kind and welcoming. And most of them are also debut authors, and they're not so popular, and that's why I decided to mention them because they deserve all the love and attention that you guys might give them. To finish this video, which is already really long, but I'm gonna try to get through this next part really quickly. These are the books that I still need to read by the end of the year. First of all, the books that are already out. And this one, I promise, I'm just gonna read the names. But we have Fever Dream by Elsie Silver, The Night We Met by Abby Jimenez, both of which I bought during my Spain trip, and now I just have to read them. We have Beneath by Ariel Sullivan, which is on my July TBR. And finally, the rest of the Beast of Briars books before the last one comes out in October. This is a project. Like I want to finish it before or as the next book comes out. And the new releases, which I'm very, very excited for. And these are in no order. It was just the order that I remember. But we have Cursed City by Kate Golden, as I already mentioned. We have Bad Idea by Al Kennedy. This one is going to be another next generation book, and I'm so excited. Back to the list. Runus Ends by Ivy Marie. This is the second book in the duology, the Blackwood Academy duology, and I'm very excited about it. Hate It With You by McKenna Cleaver, as I already said. The next Akatar book, which I think the whole book community is excited for, but I'm equal parts excited and scared because we don't have a title, we don't have a cover, we have nothing, we just have a release date. So we're gonna see about that. Speaking of mysteries in the literary world, the next one is the Fourth Wing, which might be a novella, might be a spin-off, but whatever is coming out and is being published in September, I think. But Rebecca Yarros is making a countdown on her Instagram, and I feel like it might be related to that. Everybody thinks it's about the TV show. I think it's about the novella, the spin-off, the short book that is coming out this year to make sure we don't go crazy. We also have Vine of Hearts by Julie Soto, which is the second book in the Evermore trilogy, sequel to Rose in Chains. Very dark book. I have to mentally prepare for that one, but I'm very excited. We have The Keeper by Anna Huang, which is part of the Gods of the Game series. We also have Free Falling by Lila Sage. It's the second book, and it's a paranormal romance, which I loved the first one, and this one is about the sister of the main character in the first one. So I'm sad. I just love I love sisters, especially the eldest sister, so I'm very excited. And last but not least, we have the conclusion to the games the gods play trilogy, which is the Wrath Gods Reap by Abigail Owen. I love the first one. I like the second one. I'm scared of the third one. But yeah, these are some of the releases. Obviously, I have more releases I'm excited for, but these are the main ones. Thank you so much for sitting down and listening to me yap about the books I've read and the books I want to read before the year ends. And if you've read any of these, if you're excited for any of this, you can leave a comment. Maybe tell me which one of your favorite books of the year has been. And if you have nothing else to say, leave me your favorite emoji. That's it for today. Bye, guys.